Hi, I'm Heather Esthai. Let's talk about writing. Actually today, let's talk about storytelling, because telling a good story is a powerful way to get your message across. It's memorable, it's relatable, people really hang on to it. But not all of us are good storytellers. So I'm going to give you just a couple of little tips. There's a lot to storytelling and I can't do it all in a couple of minutes, but a couple of tips. First, tension. Mark Twain said, "The cat sat on a mat is not a story. The cat sat on another cat's mat, now you got a story." So you want some tension in your story. You don't want a story about a client who is doing just fine and then you said something to her and she's doing better. No good. The story about somebody who is nowhere and who is really suffering and agonizing over a decision, and you said something that inspired them to step into their dream, that's a story. So let me give you another tip about a story, and I call this the driving model, the staying focused on where you're going. So I heard this story about a young woman who went into interview at this company, and it was a great interview, but she kept having the feeling, I shouldn't take this position. So she went home and she agonized over it. She loved the company. She needed a job. But when the recruiter called to offer her the position, she followed her gut. And she said, "I love your company. I'd love to work for you, but this isn't the position for me." She hung up the phone and, what have I done? 2 days later, the recruiter called her and said, "You know, the perfect position has just come about." A great story about intuition, right? So let me tell you the story the way I first heard it. So there was this young woman, and she went to college for 3 years, but she didn't really complete it. She wasn't really sure what she wanted to do, and she was living with her boyfriend. I think they were in San Francisco. No, maybe they were in San Jose. Yep, they were in San Jose. And she hadn't worked for a while, so she was looking for jobs, applying like we all apply and doing things. So she finally got this interview at this company that makes, I don't know, I think they make widgets and they send them to China or some. Have I lost you already? Yeah. What's the point? In telling the story that way, it's like you're taking all these turns off the road. She went to college, but she didn't finish college. Oh, is this a story about college? She has a boyfriend and she lives with, is it a story about relationships? San Jose, San Francisco makes widgets, China. We don't know what the story's about. So though you can add colorful detail to make a story interesting, make sure you stay on the road. I hope that helps. This is just a tiny bit of what we teach about storytelling in the course Drew and I are putting together. And we hope you'll join us, because storytelling can be really powerful for your book. But whether you join us or not, we wish you great success in your writing and your storytelling. And remember, the cat sat on the other cat's mat is a much better story. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Heather Esthai. Let's talk about writing. Actually today, let's talk about storytelling, because a powerful story can get your message across more quickly than almost anything. But not everybody's a good storyteller. Mark Twain said, "The cat sat on the mat is not a story. The cat sat on the other mat," well, that's not right. Okay, let's do this. Let's start again. Hi, I'm Heather Esthai. Let's talk about writing. In another video, I talked about the difference between writing and editing. And somebody asked me, well, tell me about editing. How do I find an editor? What exactly happens in the editing process? Now, for many of you, this is getting the cart before the horse. You really need to get your writing done. But just to give you a little insight into the editing process, actually, in my mind, there are 3 levels. The first is proofreading. Proofreading is going through your manuscript and checking punctuation and spelling and making sure that everything's grammatically correct. It can be casual, but there still has to be some level of correctness with it. You can't rely on spell check, by the way. Spell check doesn't pick up the difference between THERE and THEIR. A good proofreader will. So who's a good proofreader? Well, personally, I have a golf buddy who's an ex-English teacher. She's great. But anybody who's got a good sense of grammar and spelling and is very detail-oriented. So the next level of editing is copy editing. Copy editors are these brilliant people who know a little bit about everything, and they research. So they're the ones that check your quotes to make sure you've sourced them correctly, who do some research on whether that actually happened in the year that you said it happened. They make sure that your facts are correct and that everything tracks, which is really valuable for building your credibility. So somebody who's a good copy editor is somebody who likes to research, somebody who knows things, and somebody who maybe is a little suspicious of you and who thinks that your facts may need to be checked. That makes a great copy editor. Then there's a third level of editing that's a general level of editing. This is where somebody reads your book to see if you've gotten your message across, that it's clear, that if it's supposed to be inspiring, that it is inspiring, that your stories make sense to them. They look at segues and how chapters flow from one another. That's a general overall editing. Many people can actually do that for themselves, but some can't. So who do you find for that? Well, I don't want to diss ex-English majors or frustrated English majors, but sometimes that's not the person. Writing in these days, especially nonfiction, has gotten a lot more casual. So what was incorrect for an English major is now correct and acceptable. So you may not want that person, but you may want somebody who is part of your target market, the kind of person who would actually buy your book and read it and want the information from it. That might be a good source. Another good source might be someone who's an expert in your profession or field, for them to read this book because they know about the material that's in it. But whoever it is, you want somebody who'll be honest with you, give you their opinion, and then on your side know that it's just opinion. You always have final say. So that gives you a little bit of insight into the editing process, but if you haven't done your writing, start there and worry about editing later. This is just part of what Drew and I teach in the course we're putting together, and we really hope that you'll join us for this course and that you'll get your own book done. But whether you join us or not, have great success with your writing. And remember, editing comes later. Thanks.